welcome in to yet another season of Last Call. This is coming after a very, very eventful summer. You had a softball. Me and you took a trip down to Longwood, Florida to watch them compete for a national championship. Baseball did the same in Cary, North Carolina, along with several other spring sports. But with a new season comes a new face. Jake Helton, welcome onto the show.
Thank you, Caden. It's been really a pleasure getting to experience everything here at UINDY TV, and I could not be more excited to join you on this show.
You might recognize the voices if you listen to WICR coverage of UINDY basketball. Two big Rob Stroud fans. You might remember that Lewis game. That was amazing. We'll flash back on basketball season probably in later episodes as we get further into winter. But bringing us in to Last Call now, after an eventful summer, a special treat right from the NBA, from the Golden State Warriors, from the south side of Center Grove High School, Trace Jackson Davis. Let's take a look. And what a great 4 years it was. He's moved up to the NBA now. You're playing for Golden State and what was Crypto Arena. I mean, that's one of the best atmospheres in basketball.
Absolutely.
But how does that compare to Assembly Hall?
I mean, Assembly Hall is second to none. I got so much love for that place. And NBA basketball, it's a lot different. I think with college basketball, the fans it's like die hard. And I'm not saying that fans at Chase Center aren't, but it's just a different vibe almost. And there's 82 games, so like it's hard to level it, but I'll tell you, when Chase Center's rocking and that Warriors chant starts, it's second to none.
And obviously at IU, you always had Purdue marked off on the schedule at least twice a year. Who's that team for you in the NBA?
Oh, let me think. I would say the Lakers are probably our biggest rivals. I mean, it's just because the LeBron stuff and our fans are always chirping each other. So I would say probably the Lakers. And
now that you mentioned guys like LeBron, like Steph Curry, who you play with, you mentioned Chris Paul, even to assert yourself as not too long ago a rookie on that team and in the league. How do you do that? How do you find your place, accept your role, and end up doing the things you do?
Just a lot of practice, hard work, just staying in the gym, staying consistent. I think is the biggest thing that what my dad told me was consistency. If you want to make this a job, you want to make this a career, you're going to have to be consistent with your habits. And I think I did that my rookie year. And he told me that if you continue to be consistent, the work will show. And by the end of the year, got to start some games. I think we finished the season like 10-2 maybe. So a great end of the year, and just have to continue to build into next year.
A great talk with Trace, and it was really awesome to sit down with someone who plays in the NBA. I used to watch that guy play in high school against my own team in Southport and against who we watched, Romeo Langford. He mentioned Romeo in the interview. Make sure to check out that video. Will be linked in the description below. We talked about Romeo, all the high school players he played against, and again, that was a really great conversation. But now we move into UIndy sports. And as we go through the preseason polls, there really is a winning culture, which I'll ask you about here in a second, Jake. We'll start with football. We'll get into them. They're number one ranked in the GLVC. Women's soccer will be at 8th. Men's soccer, number 2. Volleyball at 5th. Women's cross country, 5th. Men's cross country at 7th. So there we see Greyhound rankings in the GLVC. And Jake, we were talking before we came on air today, there really is a winning culture around this university. Where does it come from?
I think it's just, a lot of it is from the coaches, but I think a lot of it comes with the players. These players have a winning mentality. And you mentioned earlier we got to go to Florida with the softball team. Coach Frost, I believe the winningest coach in UIndy history at this point, surpassed 800 wins the past season. So just a really fun time being there. Not only that, but we got to experience that quote-unquote winning culture. And when we were on the bus, the pep talks, the way that she talked about the other team to her team, the way she talked about her own players, she's very honest with them, but at the same time, she builds them up to a point where they have that supreme confidence that they're going to go out and win. And that's how you get to 55, 60 wins on a season like they do. Over that much time, 60 games, I mean, we see it in the NBA, a lot of teams fall apart at the end of the season, but the coaches here, they're able to keep their heads on, keep their players' heads on, right? And I think that really is an testament to this school in general. Just a winning culture overall.
And if one program really embodies that winning mentality, you're going to look at Coach Keevers and his football team, right? Ranked first in the conference preseason, 16th in the country in the preseason rankings. And for Coach Keevers' team, he's looking for another successful year. And you got to think the baseline for these teams is a conference championship, a regular season championship, and they're looking to get past that first game in the national tournament, make their way towards a national championship. As we look at their game against Hillsdale, what a game it was. UINDY coming out playing UINDY football.
Absolutely. We'll take a look at the offensive side first. I was calling the volleyball game. I got a chance to watch a little bit of this while I was calling and in between, and I got to see Kobe Lewis in the first half absolutely dominate. Only 3 receptions on the game, but some Randy Moss type numbers. 3 receptions, 2 touchdowns, the long of 48, and to go with him, Gavin Sukup, a very nice night, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns. So offensively, we're seeing a lot of the same things, not going to the same receivers. I think you said 7 different receivers caught a pass in this game. And then you back that up with the run game. And what that does is that really allows you to throw the ball down the field. And we see a lot of those deep shots, long of 69, long of 46, long of 48. So these big explosive plays, it's all set up by the run game in John Lewis.
Yeah, and John Lewis, how about 17 rushes and 129 yards with a touchdown? He mentioned his long of 69 yards. And really, it's this guy carving out those 6-7 yard chunks that really open up the offense, which you give Gavin Sukup that play action option when the linebackers have to come in and take John Lewis out of the equation. I mean, that works wonders for your receiving core. And we were talking as well, it's not just Kobe Lewis, right? He had a game, but you also have guys behind him. Alonzo Derricks coming off of injury. Anthony Crowell, a great receiver. You have a whole receiver room, 5 or 6 guys that can really do some damage down the field.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Anthony Crowell. How about we go to the flip side with his brother, Key Crowell, his first career interception to go along with 2 others from Jalen Gavon and then Contreras. So, some very good defensive play. 4 sacks, 11 tackle for losses, and not returning a whole lot on the defensive line. It was very impressive to see them come out, start off the season strong, getting pressure in the quarterback, and just getting in the backfield. That's pressuring the quarterback. It does more than you think because it makes them think about what's coming. They're always looking over their shoulder, checking their blind side, never knowing where to go with the ball, and I think that's one of the keys of this defense. They're able to really get pressure in the backfield.
UINDY football, upholding the UINDY standard. When we come back, we're going to stick with college football, IU, and Notre Dame to come.
Are you feeling alone in your faith? UINDY Catholic gives you an opportunity to get involved in a religious community on campus, providing sacramental needs and fellowship for prospective students and giving you a sense of belonging.
We just want you guys to know that God loves you, He delights in you, and He's in awe of you, and we would love to meet you. So you should come on out.
UINDY Catholic, a community for you.
For children who may have high-functioning autism, may have ADHD, processing challenges, working memory issues, sensory integration issues, those types of challenges. It's a place where human beings are valued, children are respected. It's a progressive school that takes a hands-on approach to education.
We're back now with Indiana University on the gridiron, a program best 77 points in their win over Western Illinois, 77-3 that game. And now the question raised, I'll pose it to you, Jake. Is Indiana football back? Are they here? Are they legit?
Well, apparently everybody in the football world believes that they are because they're currently ranked number 26 in the nation, jumping up from that 77 spot that they started off in the preseason poll. So, it seems like everybody in the football world is on the hype train, the IU hype train, and I think I'm going to have to join them here. UCLA not looking like too tough of a team, and this IU team is on fire right now. It's really hard to put up 77 points in any game ever, and let alone again. I mean, not that it's the best competition in the world, but we've seen what happened with NIU coming off of this game here, and they came out and got a massive win over Notre Dame, and I think we see the same thing with IU. I think IU comes out in the Rose Bowl and absolutely stuns UCLA. I'm thinking we could see another blowout here.
And we'll get to NIU's upset here in a second, but I think we disagree on the fact IU football is IU football every year, okay? Every year, 77-3. Well, look, we got to take into account Western Illinois, last Big Ten team they played was Minnesota. That was in 2022, and they lost that game 62-10. This team played Lindenwood, who was in the GLVC with UINDY last year, and lost. I mean, what kind of what competition are we playing here? I'm not exactly ringing the bell. I'm not sending everybody home just yet. I mean, we have to see them play a legit team. I think UCLA does act as that competent team to play, right? And they didn't have a great week last week against Hawaii, but you got to think, that's a 6-hour flight over the Pacific Ocean into Hawaii. There's distractions on distractions. You're jet lagged. There's almost a 3-hour time difference. And they still won that game, 16-10, if I'm not mistaken.
They were down 10-0 at halftime. It was a bit of a struggle, and that's something you hate to see, especially from a team moving into the Big Ten, the quote-unquote best conference, right up there with the SEC, if not above the SEC now. But one thing I will say is that sometimes it's all about confidence. Confidence can be key to everything. So, I mean, if we see if we see Jackson Davis come out and absolutely light them up down the field, I think we could see a UCLA team that is not ready for the Hoosiers.
Well, I think I'd put IU above Hawaii, right? I think you're getting a better team than you were over in Honolulu. But UCLA, they get to play at home against an IU team that now is going to take 5-6 hour flight across the country to go play at the Rose Bowl. And that's going to be a tough game on the road as well. I just don't see what is in favor for IU. Everything's stacked up against them. If they get this win, sure, we can revisit this conversation. But as for now, I'm not sold on the Hoosiers.
Well, according to the analytics, IU has the advantage, a 1.5 point not a dog, actually.
Favorite, yeah.
Yeah, 1.5 point favorite. So seems like the football world disagrees with you, Caden. I think I'm going to stick with the IU hype train. I'm going to ride it until it's derailed, and hopefully we don't see that until old Purdue game. Choo-choo.
Okay, so you talked about teams that were derailed. Let's talk about Notre Dame. Oh, man. Notre Dame in this one. Tough look. Tough look. You can see it on the wall behind us, see it on your screens right now. Illinois came to South Bend, Indiana, ready to play. They're currently ranked 24th in the country after this game. And while Notre Dame was blocked, what an upset. Possibly the biggest win in Husky history.
Definitely. Their first win against an AP top 10 team in school history, so that's about 58 years. And it all started with Ontario Brown. 20 carries, 99 yards, 2 receptions, 126 yards. That's something you don't see every day from a running back, and a touchdown to go with that.
And it's just a terrible look. Terrible look for Notre Dame.
Absolutely embarrassing for that. A team that really prides themselves on defense most of the time. I mean, you look back to last year's Ohio State game, it was 10-7 at halftime. And kind of same thing here. I mean, typically this team prides itself on its defense, but in my opinion, the defense was embarrassing this weekend.
So Notre Dame, before the season started, a lot of people were saying they're a lock for this new playoff system. Could you explain it for us and then give us your insight on whether Notre Dame's in that conversation anymore?
So this is actually the first year that we are going to go to the 12-year playoff, and just a quick little rundown. Your top 4 ranked conference champions, that will be SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12. Those will be the teams that all get a bye. And then there's a G5 team, which right now is projected to be Boise State, but that is the highest ranked next conference champion, often from the Sun Belt Conference. That leaves 7 spots open for anybody who wants to get in. And right now it's looking like a lot of SEC teams are trying to make their way in. And that's kind of the point that I'm looking to make here is Notre Dame's really going to struggle with this loss. I mean, we've looked at NIU's record. They're going to play, I believe, NC State. That's going to be an interesting game. If they win that, maybe you give Notre Dame a little bit more credit back. But in my opinion, that's a very bad loss to an unranked team who has never beaten a ranked team before. And to go with that, Notre Dame is now the most losingest team to unranked teams as a top 10 team.
Well, I feel like Notre Dame usually just rides their name's coattail, until they, up to this year, reached that final 4 teams in the nation and then tried to compete for that national championship. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. I'm not convinced. Their quarterback play was atrocious. Their defense playing against the NIU team didn't look up to par.
I mean, a quick highlight of Riley Leonard's stats, it's only going to take a second. 163 yards and 2 interceptions, and there's nothing else to say about that. Just a really bad performance by Leonard. And if the Fighting Irish want an opportunity to stay in the top 25 and make a bowl game, he's going to have to step things up. We've seen some impressive things from him at Duke, but this is not the same player. This is a player that looks like he has not played football before.
A bad loss, but we'll get to an Indy team that's red hot when we come back on Last Call.